Welcome to episode 11 of the Real Truck Nation podcast. We talk about factory wheels and we have a not so lightning round. Let's go.
I learned more.
Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to episode 11 of the Real Truck Nation podcast. I'm your host, Forrest, here with the crew, Dustin and Chris. As always, welcome back, guys.
Thank you.
So in just a little bit here, we're actually going to be expecting a delivery of a new truck.
Oh.
I don't even think we're going to let them know what it is just yet. You could probably guess.
I'll check on the socials later.
Yeah, we'll post on social later. But pretty excited for that. Hopefully they don't come while we're filming.
I was about to say, are they going to come like in the next 30 minutes or so?
Who knows?
That'd be fun though. It'd be great. It'd be a great
live
reveal.
introduction.
Yeah, exactly.
Get the delivery driver on here, special guest.
What'd you bring
Sure,
us?
he
Like
has
it. What'd you bring us today?
Yeah. But and then we still have our Ram 2500 that we haven't we've still been test fitting stuff on, so I haven't really even got around to building that yet. So we got two fresh new builds of new model trucks, so that'll be pretty fun. And with the 2020 Ram 2500 that we have, we're also just kind of talking about off camera a little bit, kind of the first stage of the build that we want to do with that. And by the way, that truck is huge. I think we've already talked about it. So we're going to add probably a leveling kit on it, and then go to some larger tires, but keep it with factory wheels.
Yeah.
For right now. It has the black 20-inch bighorn wheels on it, which I think look great. So that kind of sparked a conversation about factory wheels and kind of when it works to put that in your put that with aftermarket tires and lift your truck, but keep your factory wheels, and how some factory wheels just look really good and they don't have a lot of offset if that's not what you're looking for, and you can save the money by just getting the tires, and I think it'll work really well on that particular truck.
Yeah, you can definitely do a lot with just a tire upgrade on those things. Leveling kit and tires. I mean, that way you're not having to deal. You don't have the big question mark above your head about whether you're going to rub, if it's going to fit or not.
Right.
Because you're getting a lot more clearance. Just the fact that
you can fit a bigger tire.
Yeah.
Than you would a lot of times.
The wheel's going to stay under the fender, so you're not having to worry about it quite as much.
Right.
Yeah.
And it can still look really good.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely a look. I feel like it's better. The more aggressive the tire, the better it looks.
Agreed.
Because there's definitely, there's definitely the crowd out there that, will even, they will lift the truck, but still stick with, the pizza cutter tires on like factory wheels.
Yep.
And it looks really good.
There's a few guys who have that I've seen around the 11 through 16 F250 body style. You can put a leveling kit on that. Sometimes even like actually lift it. Factory wheels, and they put Nitto mud grapplers on it. Super aggressive tire, and it looks super good.
Yeah.
It looks really good, I think.
I feel like the full size, well, specifically the diesels, like that world.
Yeah.
I feel like those trucks pull that look off a lot better.
Because also they can accommodate such a large tire, even with just a leveling kit or even factory size.
Yeah. I mean,
So
for
you
the
can
Ram,
get
we're putting a leveling kit on in 37s, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think that'll be awesome. So, and then also, I mean, most of your new body trucks are going to come with 20s factory, which that's a pretty big wheel, and then you have almost every aftermarket tire is made for a 20. So options are endless. But we are also kind of talking about how in more recent years, I feel like truck makes and models have so much better factory wheels than they used to. They put a lot more design effort, time, and money into developing really nice wheels. And now, I mean, just take your F-150, for example. There's got to be, I should have counted it actually, there's got to be 5 or 6 wheels that you can get on an F-150. Like there's a lot, depending on what package you get, and then even when you get a particular package, you have options within it. And then they'll take the same wheel and they'll have it in chrome. They'll have it in like a black milled look. You can get it in all black, and then for their King Ranch, it'll be like kind of like a brushed and then with like tan inserts, all out of the same wheel. So it's like, I think it's really cool when they do that because they can just fit it to the truck so nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's another degree of customization that like you can just get straight from the factory, especially with so many options. And I like the fact that they're doing the paint match stuff. They're not just keeping it to a simple black or a simple chrome.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
there's
a lot of like milled face
Yes.
with the rest of it being powder coated or something like that.
You would almost never see that before in other trucks. They would all typically be chrome or like a silver finish. But I even like the ones that are all black. Ford's doing it. Ram does it quite a lot, and they do a good job on it. And then I'm actually not even too sure if GM does a black factory wheel.
They have the midnight edition stuff.
Yep. You're right. That's where it is. So anyway, but it really kind of got us thinking about what are some of the best truck wheels of all time. And maybe what are some of our least favorite ones of all time in truck wheels? Really, as far as I was concerned, I kind of only started counting like 2005 and newer, because before
same here.
truck wheels were garbage.
They're all bad.
They were bad. They were all garbage.
Most trucks before 2005 were just all work trucks. There was no like
they were 15, 16, 17s, 18s. They had no design features to them at all. They all looked like spares. They had no finish to them. They just did not look good at all. So I really only kind of started counting in like 2005 and newer, because even 2005 had some really good wheels.
Yep.
So we'll start with Chris.
Well, so I looked a lot more recently than that. I don't know that I have a favorite factory wheel. I'd always change them. There are some good ones, and I will say that pretty much every brand on the market today has some really good options that would keep me, quote unquote, happy for a while. If it was a build that I was going to take my time in doing, you could get the leveling kit on there, you could put a more aggressive tire on there, and I'd be happy. So, like Tacoma, the wheels on the the TRD, I think off-road package or pro package look great. And that's that kind of milled face, black barrel, if you will.
Two-tone factory wheels.
Yeah, Jeep has a really similar looking wheel on the Rubicon.
Wheel. Yep.
So, and then I also love too, it's again in kind of the off-road packages like the TRX, and I know that's a Halo truck that no one's ever really going to buy, but most people aren't going to be. Right. I should say that. But the wheels that come on that are the new Raptor with the beadlock look or beadlock capable. I really like that style. So it's encouraging and exciting to see that available from the factory. That being said, I'm still taking them off at some point.
Right. Yeah.
It's it's such the wheels that, it's such a personal touch on any build that, while they can like tide me over for a while, like they're coming off at some point.
And a lot of the ones that you mentioned too, I think are really kind of taking a lot of the design aspects of aftermarket wheels that typically have done really well, and they'll try to kind of imitate those. Of course, I don't really think that they're better than any of the aftermarket ones. There's still a lot of great aftermarket options, but you would never see that before. But they're going through that kind of, they'll look at aftermarket influences and they'll kind of try to match those a little bit. But I think those are all really good choices.
I will say there is one wheel that's pretty iconic for me, and you guys are going to get tired of me talking about this truck. It's the OBS Ford bullet hole wheels. If or when I own a 7.3 OBS,
just classic.
It is going to be lifted mud trains on those factory bullet hole wheels.
Fits that truck. I agree with that, and I think that
it's an iconic wheel, man.
If you took that wheel away from that truck and wanted to put it on anything modern, you'd say that's an awful wheel.
It works.
It works for that truck, and there are exceptions for that. And I agree with that. Dustin, what do you got?
I went to the past, like you were saying. I went back to like 2005 and stuff just to see like what was out there, because I'm thinking like what were the best options back in the day, and one that always stood out that I always remember seeing, because I was like, whoa, isn't that like an aftermarket brand on a factory truck? And it's the Toyota Inky wheels on like the Tundra XSP models.
Oh yeah,
it always blew my mind that the fact that Inky was making wheels for Toyota and you could get it as a factory option. And
the style that one didn't even come to mind.
Was actually really nice.
That's a good choice.
So that was definitely
those were also 22s.
They were 20s or 22s. I didn't look at the actual size, but
what year was it?
It was like 05, 06.
It's probably a 20, because that would have been huge.
Mostly, yeah.
So
And I think it was just the XSP model that is the specific wheel I'm thinking of. It was like kind of like a 6-spoke, kind of thick mag, aluminum wheel.
Yeah.
Brushed. It was.
And for the time, I remember those.
You could definitely put tires on those like today, and I would still put them on a truck.
Those were crazy at the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Besides that, like that's the one that really stood out. Besides that, gotta throw back to the SRT 10 with the 22-inch wheels. Those are great. Almost like a slight mesh.
So again, here go Dustin and I on the performance trucks. Those 5-spoke Lightning wheels from the second-gen Lightning.
Those were good
too.
Too.
Solid wheel. I mean, they carried it across.
Look like.
They're the same as or essentially the same as the Cobra at the time. They used it on the similar wheel on the SVT Focus, SVT Contour, the Cobra, and then the Lightning. They all kind of had that same vibe.
It's a whole theme. But yeah, the performance trucks they look good. But the Ram, it was the biggest wheel at the time, but also it was a nice it was a cool setup. More of a street wheel. Not so much you'd put a bigger tire on. Although with the Overland style wheels that are out today, it is kind of a similar look.
I will say that mesh though is probably one you keep because that says exactly what the truck is.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So it
Like,
works
it's one of, like-
with that truck.
Yeah,
You
it's
were to
like
go
one of
take
the-
those off and put it on a.
Yep. It's very specific to that truck. It probably wouldn't match anything else.
Yeah.
So a lot of the wheels that I like a lot. So I've owned F-250s for a while, and that was always kind of like my thing. Obviously, they've had the same bolt pattern for 20 years. So a lot of guys will switch all those wheels around because they're all the same bolt pattern. They all fit. They're all pretty similar anyway. And I like the wheels that they're factory wheels, but when you take them off, they hold value. They're priced on a used market like aftermarket wheels.
Yeah.
Because guys who own a 2002 will go buy the wheels off of a 2018, and they almost look aftermarket because they look really good, on a big tire or whatever it is. And,
and I did that on I had the 2017 F-250 wheels on the Excursion, and
right.
it not necessarily that it looked so much aftermarket, but it made the Excursion look so much newer.
Right.
Just having an updated, because that was the 02 Ford wheels that were just like, blah. They were
Like
not-
no one thought about this at all.
Yeah.
And the new ones, they only get bigger. The factory wheels on most all your trucks, especially your heavy duty trucks, only get bigger. So you had a 6-inch lift at the time. Put those 2017 factories on,
It actually
and it actually fit.
It actually looked all right.
It looked good because those are already 34 and change high from the factory in 2017. So yeah, things like that I think are really neat. But
Popular enough that you have all of the probably same size and oversized kind of factory knockoff wheels too.
right. Oh, that's a big thing.
Yeah, and GM, a
Chevy
lot of
guys,
the
it's huge.
Denali
Yep.
packages, they get you'd have to tell me this is not. Once it gets above like an 18, I don't know that much about it anymore. But what are they? 22s, 24s?
I think 22.
Denali knockoffs. or whatever?
They'll use it's actually the Escalade Snowflake wheels because the Escalade bolt pattern is the same as the 1500.
Okay.
And those are 22s. So they'll try to take the Escalade Snowflake 22s and put them on Silverados. But then there's the replica Snowflakes, which are, practically identical. But there's so much of a need for them that aftermarket companies are making the replicas.
Yeah, and I wrote the Snowflake down as probably the most popular like factory wheel that people buy aftermarket because you can actually get they've made replicas in 28 inches for those. You can get a 28-inch stock Chevy Snowflake wheel and throw it on your leaned out.
Well, some of my
Your squatted 1500.
to run through some of them real quick, some of my favorites. 2005 through 2010, King Ranch Super Duty wheels. 2005 was the first year they started getting into the King Ranch and the F-250s. And the wheel they came out with was crazy at the time, where it was two-tone, but it was kind of like a brushed chrome. And then the inserts, like the inside of the windows and the spokes, was like that tan King Ranch color, which it didn't pop out at you immediately, but you're just like, man, that fits that truck, because a lot of them had the tan two-tone, on the bottom and around the fender. So the wheel tied in absolutely perfectly. It looked so good from the factory. And even today, guys are still buying, selling, and trading those and throwing them on everything, even not King Ranches, just because they look really neat. But But I think Ford did an excellent job with that, marrying that two-tone and could really tell it was a King Ranch, and then they even put the King Ranch squiggle on the center cap instead of Ford.
Yep.
But and then the 2015 and newer F-150 sport wheels. My F-150s are sport. They came on there. I was really close just to keeping those. They're 20s. They're like a gunmetal gray. They're just a really clean six-spoke, but they look really good and still on the used market. I was able to sell mine for as much as I bought my aftermarket ones for. So that's also a good tip to anyone considering going to aftermarket wheels. Look at how much your factory wheels can sell for used, because some of them actually sell for quite a bit because they're really desirable. Because again, F-150s, a guy from 1990 something could use my same factory wheels.
Yep.
So guys with F-150s like the newer styles just because it drastically updates your truck, but still has a factory fitment to it.
Well, that's kind of the opposite of the Colorado or the Canyon that uses, I think, a 6x120 bolt pattern that I think one other like CUV uses, because I sold my factory takeoffs with like 7,000 miles on them. Sold all four mounted on the wheels for like $200.
Yeah.
Because it's a guy who got into a wreck and needs new ones or something.
The guy that bought it needed one tire. And he's just like, well, for $200, I'll take all of them.
Wow. Man.
So
it's
a very different market.
Yeah.
The next one is the 2020 Denali 2500 wheels. I just think they look super modern. They look like an aftermarket chrome wheel. I think they look really cool. Normally, not really, I don't think my style, but I think they look really good. Again, I like trucks, or I like factory truck wheels that match the body lines of that truck, match the styling of that truck, and they fit it really well. If you took one of the new Denalis and you just threw it on some 35-inch mud terrains on a factory wheel, I think it would look phenomenal.
Yeah.
See, and that's one of the reasons I struggled to like come up with some actual favorites. I mean, there are some good ones out there, but I feel like the factory wheels, regardless of the style, they fit the truck so well, they just kind of disappear to me. Like,
that's true.
Nothing necessarily stands out.
It's just, it's like you drive around. I mean, on the way over here, knowing we were going to talk about this, was like trying to pay a little more attention. I'm like, I forgot everything that I saw on the way over because it's just like, it's a stock truck. It looks like a stock truck.
Yeah, I will say there are some though, the ones that I mentioned. If I saw that driving down the road with an aftermarket tire on it, I would say, "Dang, that looks pretty good."
Yeah, I mean, there are some standouts for sure, but just in general, it's like they are almost designed to be inoffensive, acceptable to everybody. So, do you have any least favorites? Well, for the same reason that I just said, not really. If you go back far enough, there were some bad ones, for sure. Like, again, kind of looking around, the second gen and third gen Rangers had some pretty bad wheels. But I think a lot of Fords had bad wheels back then. Yeah,
especially, I mean, you go to the lower trim packages, you go to XLs of older trucks, and they're just, trailer wheels. But I'll kind of piggyback off of that. Same year, the 2005 through 2007, same as that had the really nice King Ranch wheels. They also tried, I don't know if they just tried kind of doing a throwback and tried to do a retro wheel, but they came out with a bullet hole wheel, which honestly kind of looked like an aftermarket bullet hole wheel. Wasn't that big of a fan because I think that the truck became so much more modern. They're trying to modernize it that they brought it. It looked like a more modern truck. But then they brought back wheels from the 90s, and I just don't think it fit super well, especially because at the time, everyone else was trying to come out with more modern-looking six-spoke wheels, and then they tried to go back to the bullet hole, and it was a little off for me.
Yeah. I mean, clearly a highly, subjective conversation, but I feel like the only modern vehicles that can pull off bullet holes are Jeeps.
Yeah.
I feel like they can still do it, but any modern truck now, just to me, it just doesn't work. And I loved and still love those wheels. I mean, I still think the OBS factory wheels, and they got the little tiny bullet holes.
Yeah.
Versus like a Mickey Thompson, like a Classic 2, I think is the one, their bullet hole wheel. Mm-hmm. But was an absolute favorite of mine. I wanted them for my truck. My 94 F-150, couldn't afford them. I got some free wheels. They were different. They would never be my first pick. And the left and right sides were different, but you would never notice. But they were the solid aluminum wheels, if you've seen those. So no no holes, no
Really?
spokes or anything like that. And, they had little Allen screws around them for, as like a styling thing.
Yeah.
And like one side I got and it had like 12 and the other one had like 30. So you just keep two wheels on the left, two on the right.
No one will ever know.
No one ever noticed.
That's interesting. I wonder if that'll be a trend.
Man,
One side, just like different styles on each side.
Yeah.
Like if you can't choose between two different styles, just go
right.
with two of each.
the import world does it. They'll do one side, one color. And I mean, it's the same wheel generally. Mm-hmm. One side,
Different
one
color or
color.
something.
Black on one side, chrome or polished on
Yeah.
the other.
It's the best of both worlds.
I don't think I'd like that trend, but we
It'd
might
be-
see it. Who knows?
It'd be unique.
I just did it because, I was mowing grass. I was
Yeah,
17 years old.
You didn't have a choice.
It was out of necessity.
Listen, I blew my savings on the Swampers and just needed to get some super cheap wheels to get them mounted.
But also, like you were saying, Chris, too, to go back to some wheels just kind of blend in to the truck so much that they don't add anything to the truck.
Yeah.
Which a 2007 through 13 Tundra Chrome 5 spokes just blended in too much. I don't know. I didn't really like them. And then the 2007 model, like Silverado brushed 5 spokes that came in the 17s and 18s. I think they matched the truck well, but they just blend in. They don't bring anything to the truck. They don't add any extra design features or anything like that. They're just kind of,
That's kind of
Switch
how
those
I
out.
feel about, outside of like maybe the higher level trim packages, I told Forrest before you got here, I'm like, I have a very Dustin opinion on this.
Yeah.
Like,
that's good.
kind of
it's like there's not,
It's whatever.
it's whatever. There's not like, there are very few great ones and there aren't really any bad ones.
I definitely think the people that I don't know if either of you guys might not come from circles that care about factory wheels as much, and that being the Ford group, the Silverado 1500 group, and the Jeep group, because they share lug patterns for a really long time. They swap around a lot. There's a lot of, between that 20-year span, how many F-150 wheels could you swap between trucks? Possibilities are endless. Same with the F-250s and then Jeeps. They change bolt patterns, but guys will just get adapters or spacers or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they've still been 2007 through current.
A lot of guys with older or lower trim package Jeeps picking up factory
Yeah.
takeoffs
The
for sure.
If you got Jeep Rubicon wheels, they look great, but just sell them by aftermarket ones. You can probably make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only reason not to, I guess, depends on your outlook on spacers. I'm not a huge fan. Small ones, okay. The big ones, I'm like,
Yeah. I don't know how.
I realize the effect of a super wide wheel and a spacer are pretty much the same in terms of wear and tear. But for some reason, I
parts
just
to go
get,
wrong on a
just
shaved. There's more lugs to.
it would be in the back of my mind all the time.
Yeah.
So that's why I
Exactly.
just go aftermarket.
That's why, like, when I built this truck, I like knowing I could leave this podcast right now and just decide to drive to California, and I ain't got to worry about it. I don't have to go, you know what, I should go tighten this first, or, let me go check this first, or whatever. Like, I just get up and go drive, and I love knowing that. It just brings me peace of mind 24/7. Because all the other trucks I have, I can't say the same thing about.
Yeah, I think everyone's been in the position where, like, I'm not sure if I can drive out of town today.
Right.
'Cause I'm not sure if my vehicle will make it.
It killed me. There's a few trips where I say, hey, you know what? You mind if we take your truck?
Yeah.
Or, like, we can't drive, When we went on my bachelor party trip, we had to tow boats.
Yep.
Down to the Keys, and my truck, I had that really big F-250 at the time, and I'm just like,
That's same
not
with my.
sure.
and I'm like, that's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it would have went fine, but it's just like, it's uncomfortable. And we're towing boats and stuff, so I didn't end up driving. We ended up taking other people that have
Yeah, it's like
lower trucks, but it's just
mine's tuned. I don't really want to tow anywhere close to max capacity anymore because I'm worried about it just being tuned within an inch of its life.
right.
and then
We
running it
got
hard.
a little derailed there, but so. We had a while ago. We had that episode with Clay and Dustin and I. That was super fun. Should have been there, Chris.
It's a good
But
time.
we'll have to have him back.
thanks for the
Maybe just
invite.
try to get a four-man podcast. It might be a little busy, but that'd be a heck of a time. We talk to him about the Gladiator and kind of pick his brain on some Jeep stuff. I'd honestly like to learn more about that. I don't have a lot of hands-on experience with it like he does. But we did a little bit of talking about what tools and parts to buy to spend your money on and get the expensive ones versus when to cheap out. and get the cheap ones because it doesn't really,
That was good. That
change
was a
much.
fun conversation.
Yeah, I think it was a fun conversation. It was,
No,
it was,
I want it in. I listened at home. I'm like, oh, they're missing this
I
point.
know you have opinions.
Yeah,
I know Chris has opinions on it, and Dustin's opinions are always hilarious on things like that. But so we're kind of thinking about it a little bit more, and we got a lot of feedback and engagement from it. So now that Chris is here, I wanted to hit it with you guys, and we don't have to necessarily go over tools this time because I think we kind of covered that pretty good. So we're just going to go over general parts. Anyway, I was initially just thinking about doing some mods, but I think I expanded past that a little bit because y'all might have some different opinions on it.
Expensive or cheap?
Yeah. So I'm going to
You're
say...
firing them off to us.
Yep. I'm going to say a word.
It's rapid fire round 2.
Yes. And then you guys just have to say cheap, expensive. You can say high or low if that's easier. Right?
So do we have to defend the... Are we doing the same rules you guys did last time where if there's disagreement, we have to discuss it?
I think regardless, I got to hear it, especially if I disagree.
Yeah.
If all of us agree, we go, oh, okay, that's probably a no-brainer, but
Yeah.
I almost doubt that'll happen on any of these.
Well, I'm going to throw this out there. Buy once, cry once exists for a reason. So I'm just telling you that's shaping my opinion on the subject.
Gosh.
So
I had not heard that before.
Well,
you never heard that?
Some of these are wearable, replaceable items.
Oh,
so that's
well.
where
I
it
mean,
gets different, right?
so yeah. I mean, we'll get into some edge cases, but in general, like, why keep wasting your time and money doing it over and over again when you could just done the right thing?
I didn't think about this
because sometimes you
Chris
got a
King.
96 Ford Ranger and you just got to have 2 different wheels on the left and the right side.
It was a F-150.
That's what
I didn't think about this ahead of time with Chris King, but I almost now wouldn't be surprised if Chris said expensive for everything.
everything.
I tried to think of circumstances actually where I might not. So we'll see if you get. We'll see if you get them.
For those who haven't worked with Chris, which I think is no one watching this, you want Chris working on your car. You want to buy things that Chris King has owned because you know they were kept up with very well. There's Loctite on every bolt
Or anti-seize.
and anti-seize. Yes, there's a very well maintained, meticulous, does it right, does all the torque specs right, everything, and sort of a perfectionist. You should own an airplane. So
I don't think I could afford the airplane that I'd want, because I want to buy the airplane for me.
That's right.
The airplanes I can afford are not owned by guys like me. I don't think
that's it. Yes.
they're falling apart. Basically, that's not what you want.
I almost wouldn't be surprised now. All right, first one, motor oil.
There's going to be a whole lot of depends for me. Like, are you driving a Kia Rio or are you driving
Do you care about the engine or do you not care about the engine? Is that what it comes down to?
So
do you really want it to last?
Well, you had to start with motor oil. That's so
I wanted
good.
to start with that.
Well, I already have two. I'm already going to say both. Jeep, 4-liter indestructible motor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leaks if you put expensive motor oil in it.
put
I am forced to put cheap motor oil
yeah.
in it.
Okay, so it depends on the engine. And then,
So
yeah.
cheap, the truck, modern, diesel, turbocharged, subject to a much different operating environment. Expensive.
Yeah.
Okay.
The exterior.
what's your expensive oil?
I mean, I have Rotella.
Okay.
T6?
T6?
T6, of course.
Gotcha. Yeah, no. With the Excursion, it gets cheap but proven Rotella T4. Because,
Rotella is very, like,
It's
I don't
too-
think
it's
it's
too-
that-
If you
I
own a
don't think it's-
diesel, just go ahead and give Rotella.
Exactly.
I was going to say, I don't think it's expensive. Like, it's
not
not like
expensive.
AMSOIL or Royal Purple.
But the
or anything like
price
that.
difference between T4 and T7
is huge. That's why I go with T4.
is it
'Cause
2/3 more?
Because
per
I
gallon?
gotta buy 2.5 gallons of it every oil change. So it's getting the cheap stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you could double the price. You could double the price if you went to T7 probably.
That would be an expensive oil change.
Yeah, I think I
How
maybe
many
not the
quarts is
lat.
that?
2.5 gallons. So
That's where I got stuck.
14. Wait, 3.5? Oh, we're bad at math here. That's why we.
I forget how much
Do
a
a trucks.
7.3 has. Someone's gonna cry.
What's the,
no,
what's
it's
the,
four-
ju-
it's
the
14
jug is a
quarts.
gallon, right?
It's 14
so
quarts.
5. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
What's
a lot.
next?
A lot.
It's a
what's
lot.
the next
Either way, it's a
topic?
lot of oil.
I don't know if you remember, Dustin. I think it was when I owned a 7.3. You got your 7.3. We knew a bunch of other people with 7.3s, and I was seriously pricing out 5-gallon drums of Rotella because if you got a 5-gallon drum and then you just got one of the pump handles.
What are you talking about? 55-gallon drum?
Yeah, what did I say?
5-gallon.
55
drum, and we just split it between all of us.
Exactly. If you divide it and they're like, we're going to run through this thing in 6 months.
That'd be great.
Because you got to use a lot of oil.
Yeah.
And you save a lot of money. You just pump it out because sometimes you end up wasting it because if you buy the gallons, you only end up using half of one or less than half, so you can't even reuse it on the next one. You got to buy individual quarts anyway. You just buy 55. Also, that would just be sick, right? In your garage, you have a 55-gallon drum of Rotella diesel.
That'd be great.
Forest Jiffy Lube.
Yeah, come on by, just pump it out anyway.
So final thought. Newer turbocharged engines, like on my Acura, that's older, but turbocharged. They use
turbos
synthetic Pennzoil Ultra or something like that.
Yep.
So the older vehicle does get you can go cheap, but you can still get proven. So that's what I do.
Yeah, and then even not gasoline turbo, go synthetic, but you don't have to get royal purple. Just get some.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I think Pennzoil Ultra is one of the best priced full synthetic motor oils.
There it is, folks. Oil filter.
Expensive.
Okay, good.
Always.
We all agree there.
You
can go cheaper on oil as long as you go
at least OEM
expensive.
grade or many times better.
Yes.
It's OEM or Wix for me.
Fram is cardboard.
Oh gosh.
Don't do that.
Just look up some oil filter reviews and you'll see why
you
want to go expensive.
There's really good YouTube reviews of like independent people that.
Yep.
Anyway, they do comparisons on it. Yeah, you go get
PS. Expensive is like what, $10?
Exactly,
and that's why you go expensive.
Because it's a fraction more. But you do it how often? You know what I mean? But there are people that go, no, give me the $2 one. And it's like, no, just.
So I used to work at a quick store. I used to work at Pet Boys, and there was this older gentleman there. He was probably in his 60s, but he drove a S2000. This guy would get the best oil and the best oil change, and the best oil filter.
Okay.
And he would actually change his filter multiple times to extend his oil life on the S2000.
Well, that's what I don't know if you guys have ever done a used oil analysis with like Blackstone Labs or anything like that, but they'll tell you to do that.
Yeah,
like they'll analyze what contaminants are in the oil, how much it's broken down from its original spec, and if it's holding up, they'll say run it to 8,000 miles and just change the filter at 5.
That almost could even be an interesting video for us to do because we got no skin in the game. We don't sell oil.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So we can it doesn't matter. We could actually do a real truck review on it. Something to think about.
Nope.
Wiper blades.
Expensive.
Same.
Yeah. Okay.
I've dealt. Yeah, but you deal with cheap for too long. And
mine are wearing out and they were squeaking over on the way over. I feel like I've had them for 3 months and it was infuriating.
I feel like
they were expensive.
We might have touched on this with Clay, but I feel like wipers is a safety issue for me. Right.
Right.
Like visibility while driving. Spend the extra $12.
It's so worth it.
And get the good ones.
They last.
It pains me to spend that much money.
They can get expensive.
Yeah,
they can.
They really can.
But
I mean, you replace them what?
Yeah. Well, too often down here. My OEMs lasted for 4 years almost before they started to streak and make noise. And
that's a long time.
Any of these other ones last like 6 months in Florida.
That's what it feels like.
I never changed the wiper blades on my Subaru, and I had it for 5 years.
Brakes.
OEM remand for me. So I'm not gonna order anything on Amazon. I'm gonna go. Well,
I'm gonna say expensive just because, if I'm gonna change them, I want better performance. So it's gonna put you in.
I'm neutral. Don't buy cheap. Buy at least OEM.
Yeah.
OEM grade.
Okay, I'm behind that. I bought cheap ones before. It's a bad time.
Yeah, I don't.
Because you're already putting in the labor to do it. You're already doing it. You don't want to have to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that much more. Also, I mean, really, you don't have to change them that often. But on maintenance things, it's sort of like Chris was saying. If I'm going to replace it, I want it to be better than it was. I'm not just trying to get where I was by spending the money on replacing it. If I'm spending the money on replacing it, I might as well spend a little bit more and have it better than it was. I'm not trying to, So you go with even if you go with like the budget power stops or.
Yeah. No, I would, if it is strictly a maintenance thing, trying to get something that is at least on OEM level. But
that's an expensive vote.
For people like us, I agree with what you're saying. Like if you do have to replace it, like if your caliper goes bad, like getting a quick toe brake kit,
Right.
I'll tell you too, it's an underrated upgrade.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it's a little bit more, and
Absolutely.
you don't even have to go whole hog on the rotors. Just get a good quality
pad.
blank rotor and upgrade the pads. And no one talks about how awesome it is to have like incredible brakes, but it's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%
So
agree.
you just have to clean your wheels a little bit more usually.
Yep. I agree with that. All right, we're all agreeing on brakes there, especially just for trucks, bigger wheels and tires, lifts, what have you. Exhaust kits.
So I did think about this a little bit, and I think it has to do with location. I have cheap exhaust in Florida, completely fine. As long as you like the sound, obviously. You want to get something
Right.
that sounds good. But if I did live up north with salty roads, I know these aluminized steel exhaust kits can rust out quicker than expected.
Because that's one of the biggest price differences within exhaust is the material.
Material, big time.
And I'll always get that question, of which one, which one do I need? Because the price difference can be kind of large sometimes. So
It can be huge. It can be from a couple bucks up to close to $1,000, really, just in a material change. So yeah, I think up north, because there's 304 steel, which is the best, and then the 409 steel is kind of like the mid grade. So and the price obviously reflects the material of it. If you're up north, if you definitely want to get one exhaust system that's super nice and you're going to keep that vehicle for a while, going with an expensive kit probably pay you off for sure.
Yep.
I don't care how much it costs. I'd pick on sound.
Pick on sound.
Okay.
Hey, that's good.
That's fair.
I mean, if you live up north, you have other considerations. We don't have to deal with that. But
Yeah.
if you're not happy with the way it sounds, I don't care if it's made out of aluminized steel or stainless. You're not gonna like it.
Agreed.
So
Kind of.
That's why, I mean, like I said, I went with cheap.
that's a tough one. And just,
Yeah, but I also
Yeah.
have straight pipe on a diesel, so I mean, they're all going to sound.
I was gonna say
similar.
I've run everything. I've run straight pipes. I've run AutoZone mufflers. Just like in the Samurai, I just needed a muffler because it was
Yep.
too loud. So I went and picked up. I think it was like a Thrush or something like that, just off the shelf. I've run MagnaFlow. I've run what was it? I think Bassani. I've got AFE now.
Ran a lot.
MBRP on the Jeep.
Wow.
I like
wow.
the inexpensive MBRP kits. I think that's
That's what's on the Jeep.
Those are really good. bang
Stainless.
for the
It was
buck.
like $140 or something. Like that.
Really good bang for your buck. Is that they call that in the installer series
Yes.
or something? Yeah,
Installer series
Really,
X.
really good bang for your buck there. But
AL
yeah,
series.
personally, I like to go with less expensive exhaust, especially because I've had diesels in the past where I'm just straight piping it anyway.
Yep.
So it doesn't 5-inch pipe's 5-inch pipe.
Yep.
So I'll just go get the cheapest one of those because they all sound the same, no matter what the material. Because the material doesn't make it sound different, right? It's everything else.
Not that I know
so,
of.
Not for the pipe.
or the MBRP installer series. I got a 2.7 now. Might not get an exhaust for it. Might, I don't know. Haven't really went that far yet.
That's the one where sound is going to be priority because it's gonna
Right.
be tough to make that sound
the way I want.
the way you want.
So, because even with the 3.5s and stuff like that, when you start getting with those turbo engines, I think you might want to spend a little bit more money and get something that's really dialed in and tuned for that engine, not just because it fits it. So it sounds good, but
Yeah, I definitely have worried less about it with my trucks or off-road vehicles. A, because it doesn't necessarily matter, or B, they all kind of sound pretty good.
yeah,
But when I had my SI and when I had my WRX, I stayed up for hours at night listening to sound clips to pick.
well,
Yeah.
you did a good job because that Subaru sounded good.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks,
Good.
NVIDIA.
Light bulbs, replacement light bulbs, tail lights, reverse lights, tag lights,
I would.
headlights, high beams, fog lights.
Go cheap halogens or go expensive.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like the middle ground is, the cheaper LEDs or knockoff LEDs or whatever, and those things burn out like crazy.
I don't know. I don't have much of an opinion. The headlights are just never what I expect them to be. You throw in a cheap pair, you're like, I don't know if that was worth it. You throw in an expensive pair, you're like, I don't know if that was worth it. None of them are satisfactory.
Oh, I'm all in on the headlights now. I'm taking after Forrest. Full retrofit on the Colorado coming. Yeah,
No, I agree with
that's
that.
going to be awesome.
So
But that's expensive.
I like HID conversions. I'm not sure how legal they are in
screw HID.
I don't know how legal they are in like non-projector beams or anything like that. But I've been a fan of both my vehicles. No, do both have HID? No, the Excursion doesn't have HID. The Integra
Love
does them.
HID.
And I'm a fan. The color, the brightness, the fact that they make a little flicker when you first turn it on.
ballasts and all that extra wiring and ballast burnout,
it's barely.
and then melting your headlights.
That's not even
And
the case.
you got to wait for them to warm up.
So you got LEDs, you got a little fan spinning on the back,
Yeah,
that
like
burn out, and then your light
massive,
bulb burns
like,
out. And you're
I never
replacing it
have
all
any
the time.
fans.
plume
my LEDs.
of heat sink.
Listen.
You got the Puckos?
No.
Oh.
I forget which ones. Oracles. Not in this one, maybe. I have Oracles everywhere else, except they didn't have it for my headlights. I had to buy a different brand of my headlights. Anyway, go LED, least expensive as possible. The difference from what I've seen, and the most expensive and the least expensive, is not worth the price jump in my eyes. Like, yeah, they're a little bit brighter, but like Chris said, if the cheap ones burn out, I could replace them 3 times, 4 times.
Yeah, but this is
You don't want to go replace them, but they haven't. They don't. Also, I keep my trucks for 12 months or less.
Yeah. You got burned out lights though. Could get hassled by the cops.
Yeah,
Not worth it.
It's
to me.
just safety.
So I'd rather just pay the money and not ever worry about it
I
again.
haven't had
or
bad-
just bottom of get your $1 halogen replacement bulb.
I haven't even had
Call it a day.
bad luck with the inexpensive LEDs, but I mean the upgrade just to go inexpensive LED reverse lights, brake lights. I even like some white tag lights, whatever. Think it looks great, less expensive, but teach their own on light bulbs.
Yeah, I mean, cheap is fine. They're whatever.
Everything's fine.
Everything. Light bulbs are fine.
Tonneau covers.
Gotta have them. Tonneaus.
You buying a
I would.
You're buying a Gator trifold for what, $249?
I would
Or are you
have
gonna
to
get a Retrax?
Mine would be
aluminum electric?
I would do a hardcover, either retractable or one of those hard
expensive.
roll up. So
I'm going expensive.
Yeah, just based on taste, because that's like a taste thing. Like
Kind of is.
if you need the
There's a
bare
lot that goes into tonneau cover shopping.
if you need the bare minimum and you don't want something that's if you need some, I mean, yeah, it's more function. If you need something you can take on and put on and take off quickly,
I was gonna say, if you're not gonna keep it on there all the time, go cheap.
you can
Which
go
is some
cheap.
people.
But
Yeah.
for what I would want some kind of hard folding or hard retractable.
If you're like most people keeping it on, I agree. I go expensive.
Yep.
That's a
worth it.
Pay once, cry once. What? So
Buy once, cry once.
yeah, that one. So yeah. Also because like Dustin said, it's sort of a function thing. Like it actually increases productivity and efficiency out of my truck. It makes it easier to use and things like that. It's more feature rich. The more money you spend, typically, you can get more feature rich tonneau covers, which are really helpful on my day-to-day bed use.
I could say if you're going to have a bed full of stuff that you need access to all the time, or that are taller than the bedsides, and that's you're going to keep it in sight. If you're working out of the truck and it's going to be in, next to you all day, go cheap.
Yep.
Because then you can just because I would necessarily want the canister in there all the time, or I wouldn't necessarily want it folded up against the cab all the time. So just get a cheap roll up
Yep,
and then close it when I'm not using
I
it.
agree. All right, we're gonna do a lightning round here.
All right.
No explanations.
No explanations.
Okay.
People are just gonna judge you.
That's the worst part. Is
It is.
I can't defend myself.
Shocks.
Expensive.
OEM plus.
That's not an
Can't
option.
be your answer for everything.
That's
Dustin.
expensive. OEM is expensive.
Okay,
Yeah.
expensive. Not cheap. They go
Okay.
bad and they don't ride good.
Ball joints, front end parts, tie rods.
Expensive.
Expensive. I buy cheap, but expensive is the right call.
How this works.
I don't know.
Terrible.
Just can't advise everyone. You should definitely buy expensive. I don't.
I don't. Just get expensive ones though, because I've replaced them so many times.
Batteries.
Expensive.
Cheap.
Okay.
We call it cheap.
Okay. This one will allow a little bit of explanation on because it's kind of hard to do a lightning round on this, but I saved this one for last. Tires. Yeah, that's a deep breath. That's a
Cheap.
deep breath.
I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, I knew it.
Cheap tires.
I know it. You've had good success.
I've had success, and I've known many people with success.
This is one I tried to prepare for. Actually, I figured
You knew it was coming.
I knew it was
Probably
coming.
the most talked about because people budget shop tires. They're expensive.
Man, there are a lot of variables in that. I will say the cheap tires. I don't like. I tend to buy the big brand stuff, if you will. That being said, I think a lot of the more budget-friendly tires are much better than they used to be.
Yes.
Ask me that
for sure.
Ask me
That's
that
a
like
fact.
5+ years ago, and no way would I even consider buying some
If
cheap
you had
tire.
someone you loved in that vehicle, cared about in that vehicle,
and
you,
that's-
wouldn't want to drive on the cheap ones. Nowadays,
and
So I'll say expensive, but I'm like warming up to the idea of
And Clay made that same point when we were talking about tools. He was talking about these, knockoff tools that are coming out of factories fast as cheap replacements have gotten a lot better over the past 5 to 10 years. And that's the same thing with the cheaper tires.
I
as well.
personally, I like expensive tires just because I like knowing that I have that extra support behind them. They last a lot longer. I don't have to change them out as often. If I could spend more to maybe possibly ride a little bit smoother, I'm going to spend that money to roll the dice on that. But I have bought cheaper tires, cheaper brand tires, had great success with them. I'd do it again. I'd advise somebody to do the same if they're budget shopping tires. They're like, oh, I don't know if I want to pay this much for one of the top brands. Spend a little bit less because some of those, let's say they don't last as long. You could replace them twice for the same price as buying one of those, those other ones. So you can change setups or whatever. But I'm definitely.
I would just advise you to not spend $4,000 on wheels and then get the cheapest tire possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Try to spread that
There should
budget
be
around
a
little
certain
bit.
ratio on your wheel to tire.
Yeah. So save
cost.
some money on the wheels, get the better tires, and you don't have to worry about it.
Agreed. All right. Well, that's
All right.
pretty good closer there. So, alrighty, everyone. Well, thanks for watching episode 11. We'll be back 2 weeks for episode 12. Stay tuned. Thanks.